Hello, welcome to an all-new Marvel cast, explaining the next type of all things Marvel. A place to talk about everything MCU and beyond, from Avengers and Defenders to Sinjin, Quarrel, and Lord Starkill. My name's Ashley Hobley, the Exposure Network's resident watcher. Joining me today, Ultimate Kerry Marchant.
It is. Hi, how you going? For those joining us today, I'd like to forewarn you all that will be no bad T'Challa impressions by me today, and nobody will be freezing, okay? Just to get it out there.
Cool. Also joining us, the astonishing Dylan Blight.
Beyond. I was like, I haven't thought of that reference until this episode, so I better get it out there while I think of it. Cheers to the podcast Beyond fans who are listening to this episode.
Do we want to redo this, or...?
No, I really don't. I don't think it works when you wait like...
MCU Marvel fans... What? How do you introduce the podcast again? Beyond?
Yeah.
You said Beyond.
Yes, I did.
You said Beyond at some point, so, you know.
So usually you say it straight away, not like 3 minutes later.
Well, you took too long. Kieran took too long fucking around, you know? Blame him.
We're not here to make references to shows that are 700, 800 episodes long, I'm assuming by now. From a giant media conglomerate. We're here to talk about a TV show from another major media conglomerate. We're talking about the latest episode of What If T'Challa became Star-Lord. Directed by Bryan Andrews, written by Matthew Chauncey. The rough and tumble space pirates known as the Ravagers adopt T'Challa instead of Peter Quill. Dylan, what did you think of this episode?
I loved it. What an improvement from episode 1. Fucking tenfold IMO. It was just like sort of everything I complained about last week was fixed this week, I feel. So I was like, you know, last week I'm saying, oh, you know, it just doesn't seem that super interesting. They're like, oh, you know, they kind of trade places, but it wasn't really like a big, huge difference in how all these characters or things played out or whatever. But this one seemed, I mean, this is way different. When you're like 10 minutes in and Thanos is like, they're like, T'Challa chalked Thanos out of genocide. And he's like, I still think it's a pretty good plan though. I was like, okay, I'm on board this episode now because we're going places. Like this is good. Yeah, it was really funny. I enjoyed the general cast and everything, but they didn't just do the whole like, oh, we'll just put T'Challa in place of Star-Lord, and then they still had T'Challa as Star-Lord follow the same path. Like, he's not on the same path, even though the episode starts thinking it's going to go the same way. You quickly realize that, no, it's completely different. Like, he's turned the Ravagers into good guys. His whole thing is you know, T'Challa's such a good person that even though he was taken away from home, he's now the fucking Robin Hood of the galaxy.
Robin Leach, I think.
Robin, yeah. That was a good payback. There's so many like good actual sort of references to throwaway references to other stuff in this. Also, Howard the Duck's in this, so I gave an extra point just for that. So that's I was quite pleased to see Seth Green return for after getting one line in the MCU, he now returns to get several lines. So this is the most he's had to say, and it's in animated form. So we're going somewhere. But yeah, all the small character changes, like even just starting with the whole fanboy thing of I can't remember the character's name, but you know, that character who's in, you know, whoa, that guy, who, that character.
Korath the Pursuer.
There we go. Like all that fanboy stuff was really great way, like twist to start it through. It was just really good. And then I think the other thing that's really great about it is it says a lot about, I guess, it's weird because it says a lot about, I think, T'Challa as a character and the fact that, you know, like he pulled out of home. He just does so much good throughout the galaxy in this scenario that it kind of makes Peter Quill look like terrible, even though it is important to note there are still bad guys. Of course, they're like fighting fucking super bad guy version of the Collector in this, who's now got the superhero bod, which I appreciated, where they're like, Benicio del Toro wouldn't put in that work for the live action, so let's make sure he's got like the 8-pack in animated form, so fuck it. And he also grew like 6 inches, I swear, you know, like they're like, no, he's taller as well, so fuck it, let's go for it.
Yep.
But it, like, there are still bad guys, but it does make Peter Quill kind of look like terrible when he's in this form. So, I thought it was really, really good. It says a lot about T'Challa as a character, and I think also Chadwick Boseman just gets to put in this really, really great performance where you can feel like it is T'Challa, but it's like a much freer T'Challa. Like he's having more fun, and you can tell he's just being like a proper superhero, sort of like more in line with, I guess, a Superman, like the Superman that everyone likes, like the carefree, just out to save everyone sort of attitude of a superhero. That's what Chadwick Boseman does with this performance, because it's a T'Challa that doesn't have the weight of the throne or the death of his father or any of that sort of stuff sort of riding on him throughout this. And I think you can feel that, because it is slightly different in the way he delivers these lines and gets to play around a bit more, instead of when he's T'Challa in the MCU. Obviously it's a lot more, mostly more serious, and I mean, he does play around, but for the most part, Black Panther and MCU stuff was a lot more serious. So, even the animation I thought was really good. Even though it's that same style, I thought it was like a step up. And I don't know if that's just because the setting was more fun, being in space and the characters and all these sorts of things. But in general, I appreciated the way this episode was directed better than last week as well. So, yeah, this one was really good. Huge step up from last week, I think.
Cool. Kieran, what'd you think?
Yeah, I thought this was pretty good. It definitely, as Dylan said, it leaned more into the fact that it was a cartoon this week, and it leaned more into the fact of kind of trying to step out of the box for what was changed because of this small decision. I didn't love the decision itself, that it's like the Ravagers picked up just the wrong kid. But it just bugged me a little.
That's always been the story, though, technically. Like, it was they thought they got the wrong kid initially, remember?
Yeah, but...
No, they knew they got the right kid. They just decided
I swear
not
they
to.
knew they got the right kid.
They decided not to, you know?
They just... he knew... they knew that
Ego.
what was happening with Ego, and they decided not to for this one, considering it was the kid. But in itself, I really loved it. I thought it was interesting to go, man... All that had to happen was T'Challa goes into space, and like majority of the known issues that the MCU has faced in its time somehow resolved. Thanos is just, top bloke that they keep making jokes about him being Captain Genocide, and it's an interesting point to see Thanos. And my only irk with Thanos was like, I did roll my eyes during the Mad Titan line a little bit, where he's like, I'm not crazy, I'm mad. I was like, oh god. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I think they got to explore more and mess around more with the MCU. I'm looking forward to them exploring what happens on the other side of the coin with Peter Quill and Ego somewhere down the track, considering that is a very different path to go down now. I thought it was a solid episode. I probably didn't love it as much as Dylan loved it, but it was still an improvement by and large from.
Let me tell you,
last
everyone,
week's.
Feels good to be on the positive side here for once. Usually I'm on here. You're like, oh, it's so good, best thing ever. I'm like, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, I absolutely love this episode as well. I don't.
Hey,
right from the start. Like, as soon as it's just that pure reaction at the start of the episode of, instead of being who, it's like Star-Lord. That whole opening interaction was like amazing, and like, sure, with this iteration of Star-Lord, you lose the music. There's something they clearly decided we're not going to have any like catchy pop tunes or anything, that kind of stuff.
I would have loved for them to explain how he ended up with the name Star-Lord, though.
Yeah, that's the one thing, and I'm not going to get hung up on it because the show needs
very royal. He acts very.
Yeah, the episode bit doesn't try to explain it because I think they're like, well, whatever. Like, you just make up your own reason how he ended up with that name as well. But yeah, it's the one sort of.
That seems like it seems like a royalty thing because Korgath is like, should I kneel? Should I bow? Thinks it's an actual title, but it's just a moniker. But yeah, it was cool seeing everybody back, kind of all the Ravagers, and going through the Collector's crazy bunch of things. That was all cool, I just seeing T'Challa seeing Chadwick Boseman do a more freer version of T'Challa, who isn't burdened by responsibility like he had been in his several iterations, was like a lot of fun to watch. a couple of things. How we feel about blonde Nebula.
It took a minute for me to get used to it. I was like, oh, okay, it's Nebula. And just their whole relationship I thought was an interesting direction for...
Cha-Cha.
Yeah, just like the
Cha-Cha.
pet name of Cha-Cha and that kind of more flirtatious back and forth that they had between them. Was an interesting choice, and I think it's a good choice, especially for Nebula, rather than deciding that to be Gamora and Gamora's role, even though in the trailers and stuff we've seen what Gamora's role kind of is going to be down the track a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, Howard the Duck. Didn't see it coming. Was brilliant. You know, we got like several minutes of him being Howard the Duckish.
I love it. Because he literally got like 3 lines. Or something at the end in that end credit scene.
It was like one line, yeah.
Was it 1 line? Okay, fuck, even less so I thought. And they made sure and they got Seth going. I want so bad for a full Howard the Duck thing. Quick question: who's actually watched the Howard the Duck movie? I don't know. I can't remember. Who's actually seen the Howard the Duck movie?
I've seen it. I can't remember much about it, but I've seen it.
I've watched it 4 or 5 times because my dad actually liked it, and he made us watch it like heaps as a kid. And I think technically it would be the first Marvel movie that I ever watched in my life because I got made to watch that as a kid, which of course I didn't know it was based on a Marvel thing, but I think because of being shown that as a kid, I've always had this sort of soft side for anything Howard the Duck related. And I remember when they had the cameo and all that sort of stuff. They did that like comic series a couple of years ago that was quite good as well. Like brought back Howard the Duck and he was like the full on detective agency and shit like that. Like give me that series. Fuck, makes it. Seth Green's like perfect for that character. I'm all about it.
Yeah. Yeah, he was intended to have an animated series, executive produced by Kevin Smith and Dave Willis, but it was announced January 2020 that it, alongside Tiger and Dazzler, had been cancelled. So, I don't know, maybe this kickstarts it. How we feel... Obviously, how we felt about the plan. Like... You know, them trying to break into the collector's building, you know, and then it turns out it was a triple cross.
Classic triple cross.
Classic triple cross, you know, as expected from Star-Lord.
This is such a Star-Lord plan. He's so good in this. Just such spam. Him at the end too, when they're at fucking Wakanda, and he's like, "I'm basically Star-Lord's best friend." Or like,
oh no, the thing that was offended him was, why'd you turn on your family like us?
Yeah.
Like that?
No, but then also like when T'Challa gets thrown in and it's showing that Nebula's the one, he's like, "How could you do this to us?" It was like he jumps out in front of Thanos. Like he did have probably the best lines and like the comedic point, other than, you know, even like his back and forth with Thanos was really good. Yeah, no, he was definitely a shining spot for this whole episode.
And you know what else? Quick, since I never actually clicked onto it just now, but it's worth pointing out. Last week I was complaining about live action voice actors not like I didn't think did a good job. Everyone here gets ticks.
Everybody nailed it.
Everyone nailed it in this, and there was a big cast of people returning for their characters here, but not a single one of them. I didn't hear any sloppy lines, so much better than last week.
Yeah, maybe it's just the subject matter, you know, or the tone of the episode. Like,
this one is a bit more fun, I guess.
Yeah.
Like this one plays into the cartoon.
This one
different.
isn't. This one just wasn't a beat for beat replica of Guardians of the Galaxy, where last week was like a beat for beat replica of the first Avenger, which I think is a bit of an injustice and unfair towards Peggy and her role within that. To just be like, if Peggy did it, it would just turn out pretty much the same as Captain America would, where, you know, we were talking about how the train scene, they just re-changed how the train scene happened and why it happened. I'm really glad that didn't happen for this. Like,
See, with last week's, I was like, I would love to have seen more of her as that character, but actually in live action, and just have Hayley Atwell do that. Whereas watching this animated with all these characters animated and the tone and the way they were like delivering the jokes, like I could watch a series of this, like this alternate Guardians of the Galaxy show. Like, I could watch this as an animated series. And this would work better as an animated series because a lot of the jokes and stuff I don't mind because it is animated. Like the whole, I'm not crazy or whatever, I'm mad. I'm like, that works for me because it is animated and it just works for the tone or whatever. Whereas in live action, I know it would have been like a bit cringy, but yeah.
Yeah, you know. And again, it was all about family, you know.
Pity there's no Groot here in the background, just so you could hear Vin Diesel do a Groot. Like,
yeah, that would have only thing missing. But I guess spinning off, you wishing it was a series. Do we think we're going to see more of this universe? I guess they kind of tease it right at the end with.
I'm interested to see what happens with this without Chadwick being able to voice T'Challa.
I don't know how. I don't know. I think he did.
I know
a couple
somebody else
episodes,
is going to. I know somebody else is going to because they said he'd only done like 70% or something of this before his passing. So I think it kind of rests on that how that other 30% turns out.
I don't know. I don't know if they're returning to him as this in this season, but we do know that Black Panther in some form is back for the finale episodes, which are the zombie storyline, and Black Panther's in that. So whether or not that's Chadwick or whoever's replaced him as the voice, I'm not sure. We really don't have a word at the moment, and given this episode's dedicated to Chadwick, it's like it feels very much like this is it. And I mean, and if this is one episode he recorded everything for, and then say he recorded half of another episode, they would have just re-recorded all that. You know, they're not going to mix him and someone else because that
would be
seems
disjointed.
More. That's more offensive, I think, than just straight up saying he didn't finish it, so we just decided to leave his one last performance. I think so.
Yeah, but I'd be interested to see like Ego do his plan with a Peter Quill that isn't going to turn on him, I guess.
Well, they're going to do it because it's Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell is in the credits as doing the Ego. So there's no way he voiced those couple lines if he wasn't also coming into the studio to voice an entire episode as Ego.
Yeah.
You know, he probably just did it at the same time. So I'm going to say yes, there is an Ego.
But then do we have T'Challa Star-Lord against him? Save the day.
No, because I think it stays as Peter Quill's storyline against him. I would believe.
I don't know how. We don't really have a precedent yet for this series, and if it's returning to the well or like tying in characters and episodes.
We don't really know. The ending doesn't really explain what T'Challa does after this. If he takes on the mantle of King of Wakanda and becomes the Black Panther and everything, and does he then have more of a view of the the universe itself that he's interacting with, or what happens there? Like, I think there's still a lot left over in the end of this episode that doesn't really point one way or another what that character does.
Was Guardians before Civil War or after Civil War?
Before Civil War.
Way
before Civil War, because Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was at the same time of Civil War.
Okay, yeah. Trying to just think the timeline, you know? What if T'Challa not being there means his dad doesn't die in that Civil War explosion? You know?
Possibly.
I mean, Captain America is implied to be dead in this new universe, so.
Or he just took a shield.
Yeah. I said implied. I mean,
yeah. Same as Thor with Mjolnir. That's also weird, right?
Because it's timeline-wise.
Because timeline-wise, how did he have, like, Hela's crown and everything?
Again, we're thinking timeline, assuming it's taking place at the exact time as Guardians of the Galaxy took place.
Yeah.
This could be way later.
But wouldn't you think that... Unless it's implying then that Ego took longer to find Peter Quill because nobody found him or anything.
Yeah, because he had to actually go out himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was cool. They brought back the Hela head thing, which I didn't know was a weapon. I just assumed it was a...
In this universe, it is.
It's where she got her powers from. She isn't just, magical herself.
Yeah. And then, cool Drax cameo as well. Very excited to meet Star-Lord.
Is it the last time that Dave Bautista plays Drax after Guardians?
He didn't voice him.
Oh, he didn't voice him this time?
He didn't voice him.
Did not know that. I did not see that. I was trying to listen out and I thought it sounded the same, but obviously...
I took a screenshot I took a picture on my phone of the cast list as it popped up so I could double check these things. Yeah, it was... fuck, I lost what it said. It was Fred Tatasciore. Did Drax and Corvius Glaver, whatever. Same voice actor.
Mm. Also, that wasn't Chris Pratt at the end.
No, it did not sound like Chris Pratt.
No.
Brian T. Delaney.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any other thoughts on this episode of What If?
It was good.
Hope for more.
8.5.
Dream world. This becomes the real.
I don't know. It's a weird series because at this stage, it's, compared to a normal show where you're like, oh, I hope next week's episode's better, or they do this with the characters or whatever, because of the type of show it is. It's just like, this was a good one. And next week you kind of refresh. You're like, it could be good or bad. I think it's Loki.
Episode,
I think it's a Loki thing.
It's a Loki thing next week? Okay.
I think. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, what if Loki was diplomatic instead of or something along those lines? So yeah. Let us know on Twitter what you thought of this week's episode of What If by going to explosionnet.com/Twitter, or you can jump to Discord at explosionnet.com/Discord. If you like what... if you want to help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser. And if you like this episode and thought it was worth $1, head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosionnet.com/support and buy us a coffee. So make sure you watch next week's episode of What If. Join us next time for another All New Marvelcast.
Oh, wait. I just wanted to say, I was really waiting for them to redo that section in Guardians of the Galaxy where Quill has to go outside into space, because T'Challa could have gone into space and been like, it's okay, I never freeze.